And hi, everybody. I usually say we're back, but we're not back this time. This is the start of one. This is a new one. Welcome to the Nerd Log. We have one guest today because one guest is all we need. Adam Johnson, say hi to the people. Tell them what you do for New Relic.
Hey, everyone. I am a principal product manager at New Relic, responsible for synthetics, errors, and deployments. Today, I think we'll be focusing on synthetics.
Nice. So for those of you who knew, who maybe just got linked to the video, the Nerd Log is our weekly show covering updates to the New Relic interface, what's new and what's happening with New Relic. As we have grown it as a thing, we are realizing how much we often need to just talk about, what this part of New Relic does and why it does that, and how you can make the most use out of it. We're talking about some new features for synthetics, and we're also going to talk about just using synthetics in general. So. Oh, and let's have Aaron say hello. Jeez Louise, co-host, come on.
I know it's my second time on now, so you're just like, he's just part of the furniture. He's been here a lot, so we don't need to just him. Yeah. So I'm a principal developer relations engineer here at New Relic as well. And I'm not going to use the time to introduce myself. I'm going to say that there should hopefully be in our chat a new command called FutureStack, which I'm going to just try out here. I'm going to use my time to promote that instead of myself, because if you're tuning in and you like to hear us talk about New Relic, but you're like, a couple hours every week is just not long enough. I need to hear these people's voices a lot more, then please go sign up for FutureStack. It's our one-day conference where we're going to be talking a lot about New Relic and doing a lot of fun things. There's going to be like an arcade track and stuff as well. So I just want to get that pitch in early, and then we can move past it.
I love that angle. It's like if you were started out as something you did just for fun, just on the weekends, just with friends, just kind of a casual thing, but now it's kind of taken over and you really need some of the big hits to get anywhere. FutureStack. It's got the upper hand on you. FutureStack. FutureStack is going to be really fun this year. We're going to talk about observability kind of all over the cloud. And I absolutely love that. But yeah, so let's talk about synthetics. So as I was writing kind of the subject line for this show, and as you're going to see in the name of the YouTube version of this as well, I sort of said, hey, let's talk about testing automatically, because I thought that maybe synthetics was like just a New Relic word. But Adam, you're telling me that it's not. It's like an industry standard term.
We didn't just make it up. There's an industry term called synthetics, and it's kind of like an umbrella term that I think not everyone understands well for the concept of basically continuously monitoring uptime and specific user flows of your applications. Most people are very familiar with ping checks or uptime monitors, which are just one type of synthetic monitor. So today we're going to talk about the variety of synthetic monitors that exist in New Relic, as well as some really easy new ways to create complex synthetic monitors without having to write code, which is what you usually have to do.
Yeah, so let's
synthetic sounds like really Blade Runner-esque. Just because these like little robots going out and checking the site. Is this where the synthetics comes from?
Wasn't that in Johnny Mnemonic had synthetics or something like that?
Let's dive into that philosophically. It's like these are checks done by things that are people, but we don't allow them to be people in our society. But in a much more real way, I guess the term comes from, and I'm sorry, I have to start back here at pinger land, right? Because sort of one of the older terms for this is something called pinger or automatically pinging, and the sort of origin of this I think starts 2014, 2015, where as the system becomes more and more complex, there just gets to be this feeling where someone starts asking, look, are we down or not? Right? Is the site loading or not? And so initially, there's just these services, and New Relic had one back in the day that sort of just it just goes to the site, and basically it just tells you what HTTP code did it get back, right? And it doesn't say, if the site, for example, changes from a big, beautiful interface where you can automatically order pet food and have it delivered to your door to the single text word, everything is broken and my head hurts, right? It would say, you're good. The site's loading. Status code 200, we're good, right? So then sort of the next level is like, well, just go check that like a word is there. And literally, I mean, back when I was first using these systems, it was like search for a word that's like in the footer. So, the whole page loaded. So it didn't like lose itself partway through. And in the end, you got to be able to have metrics about that. But it's like, okay, what's generating those metrics, right? Is that based on like our measuring something? Sort of, right? We synthesize those metrics based on going and running those checks.
Exactly. And the term like synthetics really is like there's a machine that's doing, simulating what a human would do, whether that's just simply, doing a curl of the website, which is basically what the ping check is, to all the way, from loading up a web browser and interacting with it, which is what we'll go through today. And so New Relic is basically spinning up containers all across the globe. In the case of the browser tests, we're actually spinning up container with like Chrome inside it and rendering your web page, and then running, through various scripts to simulate what a user would do. So this lets you figure out potentially before a user runs into a problem, you can figure out that you have a problem using synthetics, especially if you have certain flows that aren't high traffic. If you want to make sure like your login flow works really well, or your checkout flow, if you're an e-commerce site.
Checkout flow is kind of classic, right? Where it's like,
exactly. You don't want to wait for a customer to run into that problem. You want to find out right away when there's a problem. So you can use synthetics, which will continually check from around the globe all the time, whether you have actual real user traffic or not, to find those broken flows. And you can do that for staging environments or dev environments as well, which can really help you get heads up when things go wrong before you push to prod.
Okay, because you're running like an actual browser as well. Does that mean we're finding to execute JavaScript? This can be used with like Jamstack and like progressive web apps. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pretty much anything you can do in Chrome, you can do with our synthetic monitors. Yeah.
So not to make us like live the whole natural history, but I'm afraid I sort of have to. We have a good number of viewers, and I think a lot of people really are coming from that kind of, either they don't use it or they they haven't used it yet, or they've used a very limited version. It's like, okay, great, you're looking for like some text in the footer. Let's evolve from there, right? Well, then it turns out, you say, go home, but it's turns out we have a multinational site, and via Nakasa is like, another possible text.link. So you say, okay, I want to, maybe that's set in JavaScript, so I want to be able to execute a little user agent value, right? But then you get to, oh no, this is quite intelligent and uses your geolocation. And at a certain point, right, when you start to interface with how the internet actually works, you have to say, look, if you're not pinging from that geolocation, then you're not going to get this problem, right? So as you go internationally, you start to see like, hey, only users in this country are experiencing this problem with access. And when I was sort of first coming up, we were very new into this fact that some internet users in China had a very different web experience than we had, and it was very hard to simulate that. And so, but this happens all over the world. This definitely happens in Europe now. So that was part of it. And then you get to the point of, okay, realistically, to really simulate this flow, like something like a login or like checking out of a shopping cart, we really had to simulate, clicking on all these buttons, selecting stuff from a dropdown, and it just, a simple thing that just loads the site and parses it just does not, like that parses out a curl just doesn't cover it. So now that takes us to, okay, where we are now, where for a while we've had like a Selenium script option, right? Where if you could write out the script that you needed to run, you could go and feed that to like a headless browser system that then go and simulates that behavior. That's kind of how you'd summarize where we were 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, very, very, very powerful. And I think that still remains the most powerful option, because Selenium is quite a rich framework and platform for doing front-end testing. So, if you're familiar with it, you can write, quite complex scripts that do pretty much anything, and run those as synthetic monitors in New Relic with very little modification. We actually have a Selenium exporter for New Relic. So if you build it all in Selenium tools, you can export it to our format, which is almost the same. There's slight differences, and then run those scripts. But that's a little bit heavyweight for some users who don't want to invest the time. If you're a busy developer, you might not want to sit and read through all of the Selenium docs for days to figure out how to do a simple like login. So our goal was to like, how can we make that easy for pretty much anyone, even users who don't know how to code? How do we open up these complex monitor types to them?
And I think for all of us who run, mainly work on backend services, as Selenium's like, okay, just give us some CSS identifiers and just give us a React prop that we can feed into this, and we just start to feel like, I thought I was smart, I thought I knew so much. So I just wanted to take a minute to look at this thing, which is sort of, this is our demo environment running some synthetics. I think these are pretty simple synthetics. It's just, again, running pretty straightforward web requests out. So there's not a lot of complex behavior, but it already gets us back some pretty cool data, right? Because if you examine the full results of a curl, right, you can get, pretty deep stuff. You can say, hey, are we dealing with DNS lookup times, right? That classic of, you never suspect
always
DNS until it always is, right? Sending, waiting, receiving, connecting, right? All this is pretty straightforward, right? It's not that surprising. But yeah, again, we see it from multiple locations. But yeah, so I guess let's put forward the problem, the sort of problem that I was dealing with that sort of got us here. And it involves a mint flavored shake. Ironically, I'm drinking a strawberry shake right now, just as a...
I have strawberry water.
Nice.
I didn't get the memo. I should have found some strawberry drink.
But so my issue is, guys, it's with a shake. It's with the Shamrock Shake, which, for those of you who don't know, is a delicious but seasonal beverage at McDonald's. And so my problem is, I want to know when the Shamrock Shake is available and when it's not available. I want to check that frequently. And
can I just say that as an Irish person, I've never actually had the Shamrock Shake. Like I hadn't even heard of the Shamrock Shake until you mentioned it earlier on. Like,
yeah,
this is not something that we have in Ireland. I just want to make this very, very clear.
Is it tough for you the first year when someone gives you a Shamrock Shake? You're like, I hear y'all love these. It's a dyed green milkshake with creme de menthe in it. I thought that you loved these.
Yeah, I've been. This is the first time being in the US during St. Patrick's. And that was eye-opening for me. Like the things that folks here think are Irish is a little odd, if I'm honest.
You're out on the East Coast, right? So it's pretty extreme.
Yeah, like there was a local place on their menu had like an Irish burger, which had Scottish beef, German sauerkraut, an American bun, and I think Swiss cheese. And I'm like, what about this is Irish? Like, you've literally just made a burger, and I'm like, oh, it's St. Patrick's Day. We'll call it an Irish burger. It'll be fine.
Put some Guinness sauce on it or something.
One of my favorite local DJs.
What was that? But there wasn't even that. And they had an Irish sundae as a dessert made with Oreos. We don't have Oreos in Ireland.
One of my favorite local DJs for many, many years played traditional Irish music, and then like every St. Patrick's Day she would just get angrier and angrier like as it approached, and she's like, oh, I see they're making potato candy on the local news. That during the Irish potato famine we produced enough food to feed all of Ireland and England and Scotland put together, but it was forcibly stolen from us. The Irish potato famine is the story of genocide. Let's hear another hornpipe, dude. And it's like... Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, Shamrock Shakes. Hey, it could be Shamrock the McRib. But we got stuck there. We got stuck in Shake Land.
It could be the McRib if you're into that too.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Okay, so here's the thing. I feel certain. And actually, by the way, when we were rehearsing the show last week, the Shamrock Shake was still on the menu. It no longer
was. Yeah.
But I feel certain where the Shamrock Shake is going to appear, because I know that if you go to beverages, it'll be next to the other shakes. So unlike the McRib, which might be under specialties or listen, right. I know the McDonald's menu very well.
That's true.
Let's just put that out there. So I know exactly where it's going to be. I even literally I had it. It was loading. So I know where to look. So I want to make a synthetics monitor that's going to get me there. So we can go far as far as let's go back to synthetic monitors here and create one.
And I can talk about the different types of synthetic monitors we have.
Yeah, let's talk about
that. So if you go to synthetics under the top menu, hopefully it shows up there. Yeah.
So because we're in this demo environment, this top toolbar is a little bit different than you might expect on your own view. Synthetic should kind of be top of.
It'll be right at the top
next to mobile.
Yeah.
So if you're doing this from home, this should be a little bit smoother. It's a little bit funny, and also because of course we're using a very odd monitor size to do this, because that's the deal with streaming live. Let's see if we can zoom in and enhance one more step without destroying everything. Oops, not quite. 190% zoom doesn't quite show well. That's pretty good. Yeah, so different types of monitors.
Yeah, so go to create monitor, and then that'll display what we currently have available. So as you kind of walk through, we started out with this simple ping monitor, which isn't an actual like ICMP ping. It's actually just a curl that's curling the website and checking the response code, as you said. Very, very simple. No browser involved. Then we created this simple browser, which actually spins up a full Chrome instance and will load the page, and then gives you those like performance breakdowns. So you can see like, well, which are there any files that aren't loading? Maybe the website loads, but maybe an image failed to load.
Yeah, so a completely standard thing that, I mean, when I was coming up as a backend developer, which was not that long ago, right? You would just end up having your own site open and doing this, right?
Gotta just do that.
Hey,
and maybe it works for you, but maybe it doesn't work for someone else in Europe or Asia because of maybe a CDN issue. Who knows?
Where it's like, hey, somebody not on the Office network, please go check that this is actually up.
Right.
Oh, I've got a mobile connection. I'm turning off Wi-Fi on my phone. Oh, but it doesn't work on the mobile version, so you gotta,
exactly
force it into the desktop version on your phone. It's really tricky. This happens all the time, right?
Yeah, and it also tell you things like the performance and the size of those, so you can see like, well, what's the largest file that we're downloading when we load this page, that kind of thing, and we can show some of those examples. Then that just loads the page, and you make sure that it loads again. If it's not showing exactly what you want it to, that doesn't really help you, right? Like it may look like it's successful, but maybe some element didn't load. So then we had to have scripted browser, which is essentially using the Selenium scripts to run a script on the Chrome browser, so you can emulate what a user would do and check for certain elements. Very, very powerful, but it is like kind of complex to do.
Yeah, if your role is front end tester, right? If that's what your job
that's your
is,
life.
We'll run the script for you, and we'll put it in your New Relic dashboard. And that's great, but a lot of us are not those people, right? We're back end people or ops people, and the goal is, right, we always want to get to this place where when the sales exec calls you and says, hey, I was just in a demo and this thing didn't work. Well, I guess this is stage one, is like we're saying, don't worry, we're already on it. I got a little ping on my phone. And back when the only thing was page load performance, when I would do contract work, I would set up synthetics monitors, really low rate synthetics monitors, because these people had these little businesses, and I would just know if they were up or down.
Right.
And I even remember there was one where I was like hopping into an old, not even Slack, like HipChat, I'm old, to say like, hey guys who contracted me like 6 months ago, I don't think the new gal's doing as great because you seem to be down. Like, hi. and yeah, like that was, I would come in and be like, hey, just so you know, if you will not rehire me, like I see this portion of your service is down. Okay, so yeah, so highly scripted, and then we have endpoint availability.
Yeah, so this is like this is another version of a scripted monitor, but this is API driven. So this doesn't load Chrome, but this will basically take like any Node.js script and run it. So this allows you to check certain APIs, or you can run through user simulations just purely using the API if you wanted to do that as well. So that lets you do a lot of interesting things, and I can show later some templates that we have available that kind of lets you do things like you can check for an SFTP file download, or you can check for SSL certs validating correctly.
Yeah,
all kinds of things like that.
Like scripts on the results.
That?
Like, oh, okay, yeah. So that's
really.
strong.
I've essentially interacted with APIs before that. oh, sorry, it's because I've definitely interacted with APIs before that like they'll return you a 200 status code, so you can't just do a curl on it.
Yeah.
But the 200 will be like oh, there was an error, and the error message will be contained in like a JSON string and the body response. So you're like, oh yeah, 200, okay, we managed to return you an error. So being able to like parse the API result and look at that for your monitoring is a lot better than just like being able to send up just a regular curl for a status code.
Not authorized.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Body, this is an incorrect path. Well, why are we returning it to? Come on.
Yeah, and I know, Noshika, you came from the serverless space as well as myself, and this is essentially behind the scenes like Lambda. Like we have our own homegrown Lambda that basically takes your Node.js script, and then we spin up containers around the globe on a schedule, and we run those scripts and give you very detailed performance results of those scripts, and then tie it in with alerting. So it's like a very curated version of Lambda, even though it's not using Lambda under the hood. But it's I found it quite interesting moving into the world of synthetics to learn that this is something like before Lambda existed, probably.
We had our own
that we were running.
Compute. We
have something. One of comment in the chat saying that that's very similar to like GraphQL query APIs. They always seem to respond with a 200 and an error object.
That's correct. Yeah. So by default,
and you can absolutely do GraphQL in those scripted APIs. Not a problem. Yeah.
But yeah, by default, if you haven't already interacted with it, right, like a GraphQL server by default always returns 200 if it got the. So like your routing layer can still return like, hey, I didn't understand, right? Or like the API routing layer can say, hey, there's some error, but GraphQL can very often give you like no result. And so that's actually one of the reasons I say to like monitor stuff like billing size from your database instances, because you can get into the situation where stuff is coming back and it's even coming back faster than ever. So great news, your response time is way down. So you're in really good shape, but you're never actually returning anything. You're never even checking the database. So like your billing drops to 0, and that is a problem,
Exactly.
Because you're actually returning no data. So so in my case, right, I don't, you said Selenium to me, and as we were rehearsing this, I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. So
before you close out your developer tools, I want to see some really reassuring on that McDonald's page I noticed. See if you go to your console, even like one of the world's largest companies is still using console log for debugging.
Happens to the best of us.
There are so let's just look through like what do we have console logged out. We have uncart reference error, satellite is not defined, which good news, we're not in space, so it shouldn't be a problem. Is buying sodas. False. One false and then an array. There are 0 McDonald's near you. That's not true. There are several McDonald's near me. False. Open 24 hours. And the word 90. I know this is an interest string, but I'll just say that is some pretty great console logging.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen the Facebook console log.
Yeah.
The Facebook console log
great,
is,
actually.
If someone has told you to go in and open this, you are making a mistake and you're about to get your Facebook
full of details, right?
Please stop what you're doing. So that's really good. I have not noticed this. I love it so much.
That's good.
So let's take a look at step execution.
Yeah, this is the new one, Step Monitor. So this is brand new. This is actually the first place we're announcing this. It's been quietly available. We did a soft launch. It's available to everyone, but this is the first place we're publicly talking about it. So this is pretty exciting. And the idea here is that this basically gives you a way to no code create those basically the scripted browser experiences. So you can load up a web page, interact with that web page step by step, and then make sure that things work as expected, all without having to write code.
Nice.
So let's walk through this Shamrock Shake example.
So say the name. I just gave it a tag. Purpose is jokes. And I set the period way up because I'm just messing with this, right? I don't really want it to be hanging all the time.
Yeah.
And then you need to know within minutes if that Shamrock shape becomes available.
Yeah.
Let's locations. Well, I know not to include Ireland. That's for sure. So we'll just say, and I don't really, it's called something else, but I don't have it at all in Canada. So I really just want to ping it from the US. And I actually tested this with a VPN. It does not load. It loads a whole different menu if you come from someplace else.
That makes sense.
Even if you try to feed it in the user agent. So for those who are not front-end devs, there's this thing called the user agent, which is passed by any browser, which says sort of, here's who I am, including what language you prefer, what your geographic area is, and a strange lie called what browser you're using. How did that happen? But for whatever reason, you get this information about here's my browser, which is always some weird other value. But yeah, anyway.
There's a little note in here about private locations. So if you're curious what that is, that essentially, we have a concept called private locations for New Relic synthetics that allows you to set up your own location that will run these synthetic checks through, and that could be behind a firewall in your own data center. So if you have an internal site or application that we can't access through the public internet, we allow you to basically spin up a Docker container or containers that we will proxy the connections through, and it'll show up as an option here.
Ooh, neat.
Which is pretty cool.
Good to know if you have an internal tool, like an internal sales tool or something. So I happen to know, so a classic thing we used to run into, I know we've been long-winded about this before we actually get into it, that this URL changes quite a bit for the drinks area. So I want to start here. I actually want to start in the full menu because this URL is pretty static. So I'm going to feed it that URL as navigate, but then I want it to go to the beverages section. So type text and search. Oh, this is all pretty straightforward. I'll just go ahead and give it click element. What would secure credential be? I'm curious now. By link text, I think link text will probably do it. Text in the locator field. Sure, link text in the locator field. Really? Cool. I'm just gonna do it this way. Okay, so it says click element, and then it gives me a few examples by CSS class, by link text. I know CSS locators pretty well. I could use link text or XPath or something else. So I'm gonna just use my inspector here to get to what I need. So beverages, inspect.
What would it do if there was multiple elements with the CSS selector? It's just going to click the first one it finds.
Exactly. Yeah, it just goes through. It goes through that lists in order, and then it'll just select the first one it finds. So if you have multiple that are the same on the page, you can be a little bit more specific with nesting all of the classes as part of that locator field.
Yeah, so this is pretty familiar for people who can you do other than Cypress with synthetics? Good question, Daniel. I don't think so.
Cypress?
Yeah.
That's actually been requested a few times. You can't currently do that, but it's something we're interested in for sure. So we're looking into that.
Yeah, we'll see. So this is a classic front end scripting automation thing. Is how do you make sure you're actually selecting the thing that you wanted to? And when I was rehearsing this, I actually did that where this next stage, I checked the beverage name, and it was you were looking for vanilla shake, and I found Diet Coke because it matched just the first one that came up. There is always a way to write a CSS selector that will do this. So there is always a way to do it, whether or not super obvious. I'm using a really classic one, which is ARIA label. So that should stay very nice and stable. But sometimes sometimes the synthetic monitor gives you a warning that your structure of your page has changed, and you actually should know about that. So then we click here, and let's just do that to follow along. And so now there should be a shamrock shake in here with the chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry shake. So I don't just want to say click an element, I want to assert that an element appears. Yeah, that makes sense. That's right. We want the pass fail at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Adam, if we didn't ever use an assert, it would only fail if there was a 400 or whatever. There was a non 200 response.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, if you didn't have the assert after that, it would click on the link, it would load the subsequent page, and as long as that page loaded, the check will be successful. So
I guess you
assert is
could
going to
feel
be a
before
handy
then.
last step just to make sure that like there's some text or link or something image on the page that you expect to see.
I guess you could feel before then if it didn't find that original beverages link, like that could cause it to feel before it even attempted the click. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's.
Yeah, and you might even
right,
want to see like the inverse for the Shamrock Shake, because you might want this monitor to succeed.
Yeah, let's make it succeed first, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Aaron, you got a good point.
That way you can set up alerting so that when it fails, you'll get alerted. So you can make it so that when Shamrock Shake appears, I want it to fail, so that I get notified quickly.
Yeah. Now I thought I had a good idea of what to actually look for, but area label chocolate shake. There we go. Okay. I will say that there's the introduction of some spaces in here that I don't love.
We'll see how it goes.
what is this guy? This is an anchor. Okay. I mean, they just got it right in there, so I mean, I think we're fine.
I think so.
Is present. Okay, so let's save this. Well, let's test this monitor first before we just do it. So there's a test up here. Oh, before that, I want to show you. So this is just the automated thing.
Hit the test first because it takes a little while, and then we can run through the other one. This isn't a cooking show where we can like just magically cut through. So this test typically takes some time. It takes a few minutes because we're basically like fetching a container that's ready to be spun up. And then we spin up a full Chrome instance and start running through that script. So this might take a few minutes to come back.
Yeah.
So we can.
While we do that, I think we can hit view script here. This will work.
Perfect.
Yeah. So just to see, like, this is what if you feel like you're a real smart Selenium lady, this is what you can do instead.
And you could definitely write like more concise code. Yeah. This is machine generated, so it's a little bit more terse. But if you wanted to modify this with some Selenium, this is a Selenium script that runs in New Relic. So if you wanted to modify this with some capabilities that we don't yet have in the step monitor that Selenium does have, you can copy this and paste it into a browser scripted monitor and modify it from there. So this is a good starting point.
For example, if you wanted it to throw an error like based on some regex or something, right, you could script it in here, have it throw the error here. Here, let me zoom in and enhance a little bit.
Yeah, and there's some other interaction types that we don't yet support that are coming soon, like hover over or long press, things like that that are a little bit more specific that you can do in Selenium that we don't have in the step monitor. But as you find those, like, let us know and we'll add more stuff in there.
Yeah, I do.
So if I already had,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
If I already had all of my tests written then with Selenium, but running like through some kind of CI or CD, I wouldn't need to come back in here and recreate them all for the step builder. I could just take those Selenium scripts I already have and just paste them in.
That's right. Yeah, we have a exporter that you can load into Selenium, and it'll export to New Relic format. There's a slight difference, but that you can just run all your scripts through that and load them into New Relic. And if you have a lot of them, we also have an API where you can automate all of that. We have customers who have built that into their CI/CD, so it basically grabs multiple times through the day, grabs the latest script from their repo, and updates it in New Relic for thousands of scripts so that they're always up to date.
Yeah, and actually, like something that you could do here, I noticed we do have this issue where it looks like some of their labels have a space before and after, and some don't. And so if you wanted to come in here and hack on this a little bit, right, you could modify its match to say, hey, don't just look for an exact match with, like, alter the pattern so that it ignores white space or that kind of thing. And actually, I sort of joked about, if you love Selenium, here it is. But the reality is, if you're trying to level up in this area, this is a very, very solid thing to do. I always recommend using a tool that like starts with some kind of visual editor, lets you build the script, and then lets you hack on that rather than just having to write it all the way from scratch. It's a really, really nice way to get it done. So yeah, like, you can see it right in here as it's asserting that these things match. So let's look at our test. Oh yeah, run test, check successful.
Hey, that's good. First try.
So the nice thing here is that, we wrote a relatively simplistic question, which is just, does this text appear in the menu? And we get quite a bit more back, right? We get to see, just like we see in that network tab, right? Like what's actually loading and how long is it all taking? So the ability to go really deep on like, hey, we have a problem and what exactly does it look like is extremely high.
And if you want to see what each of the steps look like, you can go to the script log at the top of this, that script log 10, that will show you like step-by-step what happened next to the waterfall. And then if there was a failure, it'll tell you what step failed. We just released an update, I think yesterday, where that if you go back to the step builder, it'll show you in line which step failed and why, as well. So if there was a failure, it's gonna make it super obvious where that failure is.
Yeah, that was actually really cool. So that happened for me. So right now this thing is actually not checking for the Shamrock Shake. It's only checking for a chocolate shake, which who cares? So let's have it look for a Shamrock Shake. And then we'll run our test. And again, we just gotta stand up a new container and do it. And this is sort of like when you get into like what is AWS Lambda, and you're like, oh, like actually a lot of people had implemented something like it. Little ideas like, hey, this request seems to be happening repeatedly, so let's keep that execution environment up and active. It's like, this is stuff that's impossible with a roll your own system. That's like, just because AWS is doing it for millions of people a second is why they're able to do that stuff. So of course we have to wait for this to stand up, which is not something that we're going to observe, right? Normally when it's scheduled, right, you'll just have the data. You won't be sitting here waiting, but we got to run this for a test, which totally makes sense. We could also we could grab the script and run it in Selenium locally, right, to compare it, right, to see, hey, here's how it performs, which we're not going to do now because we're pretty sure that this is going to give us the results we wanted. But
we actually want to flip the result of this test as well. So after you've run this one, because we want to get an alert whenever the Shamrock Shake reappears.
Right. That's right.
We actually want to check if it's not there.
Yeah.
So let's see this one should fail first, and then we can.
Yeah, so what we can do after this, I know this is available in the step builder once the script is run, is like assert is not present, right? Is what we want to assert. And like
exactly.
Maybe this is the new version of the synthetics monitor where we hate the Shamrock Shake.
While we're waiting, like I can talk about secure credentials as well.
Oh yeah. So there's the step I didn't use called secure credentials.
But maybe open up a new tab with synthetics, kind of main synthetics view. And I can walk through what that is.
Oh yeah, do you want to grab the screen share, Mia? I think there will not be a blip when we do this. So
let me try.
As long as you grab it and don't screen share. Close it.
Okay, yeah, I'm not going to stop my screen share.
Here we go. Let's see. Did something work?
Well, one sec. Let's see. How seamless, beautiful, says producer Mia. Thank you so much.
Love to hear that.
And Greg and Patcher in chat as well. Hey, folks. Love it when people pop in and say hi.
Let me zoom in a little bit, if that helps. So I went to synthetics at the top here. This is what most people will see. It'll be at the top menu, and then there'll be secure credentials. You'll see there's a bunch of other stuff here as well, which I can run through if we have time. But we do things like build out an SLA report for all your monitors, the private locations I talked about. So that's where you would create a location that runs behind a firewall or in your own data center. You can schedule downtimes for your monitors. So if you want them to not run for a set period of time while you're doing some maintenance, you can do that. And this location status helps you monitor the status of your locations as well. Secure credentials is basically a vault that allows you to store encrypted credentials or any sort of text. So this is really useful for logins, testing logins in particular. So I've already created one, which is like a password. So you just have a key and a value. So you just name it whatever you want, and then the value would be the actual password. And you can give it a description. So I've already done that, and that allows me to basically I can show you one that I just put together.
But that only works if your password is 10,000 characters or less. Yeah.
Yeah. So it also is useful for like SSL certs and things like that. It is long enough for those. So you can use that especially for the API monitors. So this isn't just limited to the step monitor. This works in any of the scripted monitors as well as the step monitor. So you can see in this existing one I created, I basically have I'm testing logging into New Relic. So I loaded New Relic, I clicked login, I typed in the email. I have this test email login. I had submit, and then there's a password field after that. So I look for the login password ID, and then I only have one secure credential, so I just selected that one, and then I clicked submit, and that's all it took to log in. 6 steps to log into newrelic.com and make sure that is always working all the time. I did run into an issue there, which I can talk about later, but maybe we can skip back to Notion.
Oh yeah, let's see how our let's take a look as our Julia Child style. So interestingly, it's saying here, and let's come back.
Really putting
2 handovers without any problems.
Let's see. I'll roll those dice.
Yay!
Oh boy, that's a sort of gamble you can only get from buying cryptocurrency or messing around on Stream Live. In my test view, I have check failed with unknown error, and you can go through, and there's not anything in this network tab, right? Because everything loaded successfully. But the problem is, if we go over to Step Builder, this is really smooth, by the way, Adam. It's like, hey, failed assertion, expected state true, false, actual state false, right? So we wanted this label to be present. It's not present. So let's try changing this over to is not. And I think test will take just as long, so we may have to hand over again or wait just a minute. The one thing I wanted to say is the secure the credential thing is very powerful, because we'll also see, some places that are so, very, very e-commerce obsessed, and they're kind of not just wanting to check, hey, like checkout works, but checkout works in a particular number of seconds. So maybe that's even their relationship with their credit card servicer or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, if you have merchant services, you can get them to issue you a card number that processes like normal, but gets automatically canceled a few minutes later.
Definitely.
And so, but you don't want to store that credit card in plain, like it is super duper, that's super duper not cool. So, to not have it be present, visibly present, or it's stored in plain in your interface for your monitor checks is like super duper important. So the
other like super useful thing with secure credentials is that if you have like that credit card, that test credit card number, if you have that and you're running, say 15 different synthetic monitors to test different types of workflows with that number, and let's say that number changes, you don't actually have to go in and modify all 15 monitors. You can go in and modify the secure credential one time, and it'll update all 15 monitors.
So if we have other variables that like are shared across different monitors, would we just put them all in as secure credentials, or do we have just like a variable?
I would use secure credential for that. It'll be encrypted, but it allows you to centrally manage that as well.
The other thing I wanted to ask when I saw you like with those tabs there is so we had the thing to pause all monitors.
Yeah.
Is that like accessible via the API? Like if you had a CI or CD job to like take your site down for maintenance, say you're Apple and you haven't figured out how to update your online store yet with like rolling updates, you're going to take the whole thing down for an hour every time you have a keynote. Could you pause all your monitors during that time as part of your CI rollout? Like, could we access that via the API?
I'm actually not sure. I think that it might not be available as an API today, but that is something that we are working on. We're like moving. So monitor downtime is a pretty older feature that we had built out quite a long time ago. And we're going to be migrating that to like alert downtime because it's currently a different system. Once we've migrated it over to using the alerts downtime in New Relic, that will be API accessible.
Great.
And be a little bit more flexible in terms of how you want it to operate, whether you want to just suppress alerts for that, or whether you actually want to pause the checks from running. You'll have the option to choose there.
And is it like an all or nothing kind of switch? Like, is it turn all monitors off, or can you be like, oh, turn monitors off for this region, or?
That's also a really good question. I
Yeah, I mean,
forgot.
I see all the awkward questions today. I'm sorry.
No. It's great. It's great. I can find out really quickly. I'm just pulling it up to see what all the options are in there. So I can share my screen really quick.
3 times in one
Just keep doing it.
Oh yeah, get it.
streamer day, and like we're really pushing our luck.
Yes.
So basically this lets you do all monitors, or you can select specific monitors, and then you can do like whether you want to have it like happen on a schedule or just once, and then you have timeframes as well. So it's pretty simple.
Nice.
Pretty simple to set up, and it's fairly flexible. But moving forward, I agree, like everything should be more API driven. So that's kind of the direction that we're headed with a lot of the stuff. And you can do like create and modify your monitors through API as well. So there technically are things you could do as part of your CI/CD to maybe like pause your monitor one at a time. That would be something you could potentially do.
So my check is successful, which is not that surprising. That makes sense, right? That now there is no Shamrock Shake, so that would read is available. I think we might wrap it up. I want to go a little deeper on synthetics like sometime soon, but I mean this really covers it. Now I asked you to prep to show us Selenium. I mean if you wanna click over to it and give us a preview, but really this has all been about the no code option, the like having to know nothing but how CSS selectors work, which I love.
I will share a couple things super quickly just as teasers.
Sure, yeah.
Can do a follow up. So we recently published this website here, which is basically like a quick start library for synthetics. This is a open source library that contains a bunch of different scripts and like templates as well as snippets, which will allow you to do all kinds of things. Like let's say you want to just download a file and make sure and see how long it takes to download that file, or if you wanted to get like the Google Lighthouse statistics or metrics, there's a template for that. If you wanted to do like just literally an ICMP check, you can also do that. So here's all the scripts. You can just quickly copy those, paste it into the script type of that this matches with. In this case, this would be like an API script.
Oh, wow.
And you can also add your own to our repo, as well as if you find any issues or you want to extend the capabilities, we accept pull requests to these as well. So we have this new Relic Quick Start Synthetic Library repo where you can find all of the information on contributing to this. So there's a bunch of things you can do with synthetics that kind of gives you an idea of where to start. And then, the other thing is
we should be expecting a Shamrock Shakes PR on that repo pretty soon.
That would actually be pretty rad. I'd love that.
I would check for Shake. Well, because the other thing is, so what is the site called? It's like Make Broken or something, right? Like uses a version of this to tell you, is the shake machine broken at my restaurant? Which you could absolutely do with this step monitor. So
that's right.
I definitely want to share that next. It's like go in, enter your zip code, and go and check. Go and select your store, and then go and check if it's actually available. I would love to do that next.
Yeah, definitely. So I just like quickly loaded up Selenium IDE. Selenium IDE is like really just like a Chrome plugin. You can Google it and add it in just a couple minutes. And then when you click on it, this is what it'll show. So you can do like record a new test and just say, foo. And then, okay. So this is basically like a script recorder. So you start by navigating to a website. If I just do example.com, I'll start recording that. And then you can do things like, I want to highlight this, or I want to maybe click on more information. Then I got to figure out where the stop button is on the screen. Let's see. Zoom is hiding it all from me.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
here. So here we go. So now you can see basically here's all the things that I did. So if you wanted to record like all of the keystrokes, this will help you do that. So it's pretty
still
easy.
Recording on you.
It's still recording. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see a little flashing square on your right-hand side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think top right there may be a stop
Oh,
button.
there we go. Okay, the zoom interface was in the top there.
Thank you. So, oh, that zoom screen share. It's always the last thing that gets you.
Yeah, right. So you can see, like, if I click in there, you can see it's using the CSS equals H1. So this is a very basic example, but if you can't figure out the locators, this can help you figure out what those are. If you're on a site that's like a little bit weird in terms of like how they've identified links or elements.
I know this also generates a unique identifier. So, there are, for example, there are no IDs on the McDonald's site. So for some of them, you do have to do like, it has to be an H1 that is a child of an A with this class, right? So, it's very nice that it auto-generates that stuff. I'm here to work. I'm not here to think,
Yeah, exactly. And then
I want to do your little puzzles. Thanks.
If you Google New Relic Selenium exporter, the top result will be an actual like exporter for this, so if you record that and you want to run that directly in New Relic, you can use this plugin to it, and you'll have a new option to export to New Relic synthetics, and that'll just generate the New Relic synthetic script, and then you can just copy and paste right into the browser synthetic. So it's really easy as well. If you don't want to go through the step-by-step and you just want to record a simple thing, that's a good way to do it too.
I love that.
Lots of options. If I just broke things
you killed the video. Oh no, now we're oh no, every high place should be made low. Oh no. Cat's lying with dog.
We got so close, so close.
That's my bad.
Hey, let's just say our goodbyes. Greetings to the Shadow Zone. Free us, Superman. Where our time is disturbed in the Shadow Zone. Seriously, folks, come and check out FutureStack. We're gonna put a bunch of links in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, which you probably are, because like 20 people watch us live and like 200-300 watch us on YouTube. So thank you so much. There's links down below to all this. There's links also to that GitHub repo. I'd love to see some day one commits. If you come and find me on Twitter at serverlessmom and DM me the word rigatoni, I will send you some New Relic swag because you watched the video all the way to the end. So thank you so much. Otherwise, Adam, you got anything to plug? You got a SoundCloud album coming out or anything?
No, definitely not. I had a blast. This is my first Twitch, so hopefully you'll have me back again, even though we got to come
back to talk more about synthetics because I absolutely love it, and I really want to get advanced and do some complex user flows.
Yeah, it seems super powerful.
We have some new synthetic monitors that are coming out very soon that I think will be very exciting that I want to show off.
And for those of you watching who are kind of new devs, I know we're a little bit fractured, but actually, by the way, our faces all look fine. It's fine. Being good at this stuff, and this is not just a New Relic thing, synthetics is really something that applies across the industry. Being good at writing these automated tests and being able to do end-to-end tests just sort of out of the box and de facto, it is so major, and it can absolutely make the difference in your career. So I love that we're helping people build those skills. All right, folks, I think we can close up. Engineer Mia will probably take us out, but thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, everyone.